Hey guys, what's going on? The solution artist Bobby F. Parihar here with a really great friend of mine, Jessica. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. How are
Jessica,
you, Bobby?
great. Jessica Lively, or as I like to call her, Jessica G Boate. This is my partner in business, a true mentor. She's a kick-ass woman. Like you just listen to her for 3 minutes, and you just like you're gonna start to rip. And so what's gonna happen inside of this time together is that people are gonna get shifted by the stuff that you're gonna say to them. And also, I was really excited to pull you out here. And just before we started recording, I was like, kind of like trying to set the pre-frame of like, what is this conversation going to look like? And I told you, I would, like when we get closer to each other, our fire seems to get bigger. And like, you just make everything more excitable. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm here for the ride. And we get a chance to steal, sharpen, steal. As a mentor and as an inspiring leader inside of our community, you've helped hundreds, if not thousands of people find value within themselves, create systems for people to use so that their path to being an entrepreneur, it's a bit more padded, because it's a scary world out there being in business. And when we get a chance to have people like you by our side, it's like it makes the reason why we're going to be successful, because it's about community. And so I really wanted to have you on here. And I was even just going to tell you all this stuff casually before we recorded, but I'm like, I really want to get this on tape. I really want to make sure that my audience hears this as well. Is that like I see our future. I see our future with all of the cool things you've done, all of the epic things you're about to do. And we're growing, and we're like, what's next? What more can we do? How better can you get than this? And sometimes people out there, like 90% of the entire global population, lacks vision the way that some of us, I would like to say, have been blessed with it, or we've worked hard for it. Sometimes it's just running against a big enough bear in life, like I can't go back to that. I can't do that in my life anymore. And so when we have our conversation, I'm like so super cool to like lay it all out. If you really want to do like a massive spiritual healing upgrade, you sharing some of the more grisly details about your story are going to absolutely help people. That's what we do. That's what I do. That's why I call myself the solution artist. It's because we're out here to help people. And you're on my list of superheroes. You're inside of my squad. And so I really appreciate that honor of being really close to you and being able to do this. And like, we're like, okay, cool. Zoom, sweet. Let's get it done. All right, cool. See you. Like, we don't need to plan this stuff. We actually did a training a little while ago, and I was like, oh my God, the power that is contained. And we've known each other for a few years now, but we've grown. And now look at this is my podcast. Whoever thought I would do this? And like, you're creating apps and you're creating systems. You're like your own little like community of network, and it's just so super magnetic. It's a blessing to have you here. How the hell are you?
I am fantastic. I am super, super fantastic. And holy shit, what a welcoming. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Every time we get together, we ignite. It's like, boom. So hang on, folks, because we're going for a ride.
Oof.
So
we gotta give people a little bit of a background. So let's start a little bit about who's Jess and what you speak for, and like let's light the match right there.
Okay, you ready? Okay, first and foremost, if you're watching this visually, my name says Jessica Lively down here. That is my old married name. You will never find me anywhere. It's Jessica G Boate, if you're searching for me anywhere. So wow. Where do I start? I'll probably bounce around a little bit, and hopefully you'll be able to follow me. Most people are. I can articulate it fairly well, but I definitely will do some bouncing. So thank you, Bobby. Absolutely. When we get together, it is always fire. I'm always like, holy shit, I didn't even know I had that in me. So I met Bobby about 2 years ago. Basically within a community that we work in, a digital marketing community, somebody had reached out to me and said, oh my God, my business is just lit. And I was like, crazy cool. And they're like, actually, this is really funny, but it all had to do with numerology. And I was like, cool, I'm totally into that. My grandmother was very, very into that. She used to read my stars. She used to, all these different things. So I have that kind of background that from a very young age, my grandmother used to read books to me about the third eye, very spiritual things. Anyway, so I reached out to Bobby because this person had said, my business is super lit. Bobby's like on fire. He like helped me realign my name. So it's all business. I was like,
who was that?
Aaron.
Fraser.
Yeah.
My boy.
Yeah. So that was super exciting. So, and then I was cranking in my new business. I was only a couple months in and I was just like smashing records and just going crazy. And I reached out to Bobby and then, holy man, we just went click, totally connected. In fact, I was talking a lot about my grandma and you were like, holy shit. And she's passed. And you were like, oh my God, like I'm tingling like the whole time. Like she's here. And it was crazy. I was like, I know she is. And so anyways, that's how Bobby and I met. But I'm going to bring you way back to kind of where I am now. And we'll start with my entrepreneurial journey and some adversity that I've faced.
Hey, can I ask you a favor real quick?
Yeah, what's up?
Is it okay if I look at your chart while we do this? Like, I want to look at your numbers, or do you want to? Because she's Jessica's born in May. She's a fighter woman up front. She's life path 8, which means she's a boss woman. So you put boss woman and fighter woman together, and you're like, get out of the way. She's gonna run right through you to her success, and you may experience some cuts along the way because that's what happens when you run into a bush. So just to see that we have that in there. I wanted to pre-frame that, yes, you've really done something extraordinarily powerful, which is to survive your entrepreneur mindset. So yes, let's go way back and let's talk about some of these adversities because I think we need to set the stage here.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. Okay, so okay, we're gonna get deep. We're gonna shed some tears, but we're gonna show you how I conquered these things. So. Let's see. As a child and as a young woman, as an adolescent, any terrible and horrible thing that you can imagine happened. Molestation, rape, beaten, held against my will. Whew. Haven't said that stuff in a while.
Dang.
Give me a second. I'm thinking about my daughter that's in the other room and how much I protect her. I call her my baby bear because I protect her. I am her bear mother. Absolutely. Because I went through some pretty terrible things. And that being said, it set the stage for me to take one of two paths, right? And we all know exactly what those paths are, right? You're going to conquer these horrible traumatic things that have happened to you, and you're going to use them as building blocks or stairs to get you where you need to be, or you're going to be overcome with trauma and disease and addictions, etc. And so I would be completely lying if I told you that, oh no, I just said, no, I'm going to conquer all this shit and everything's going to be fine, dandy, and wonderful. And it's been a spiritual journey since I decided at 16. No, that's bullshit. No, I was extremely suicidal from the time I was 12 to 14. For a couple things. A lot of my traumas came up at about 12. I kind of realized what was going on and all these things were not right. I was going through court with a family member that had molested me. There was a lot of things going on. And on top of that, I was going through puberty. So when you go through puberty, some people have a pretty easy time. I didn't. I had crazy hormonal issues. And so I was becoming suicidal. And I was a total mess. And so I actually was locked up as a very small child, which was completely wrong. They do not do that anymore. Yeah. They didn't know what to do with me. I had a really shitty attitude. I think I was 13. I had a terrible attitude. I was hurt. I was like just bleeding trauma everywhere. It was awful. And all I wanted was the pain to stop. I didn't want to end my life. I just wanted the pain to stop. I was just a baby. And I went to the hospital one time and because they were worried that I was going to commit suicide. And the doctor in the emergency said, you know, like, do you want to die? And of course, my 13-year-old crappy attitude self said, well, we all die. She took me upstairs, locked me in a padded room naked. at 13. My doctor was on call, or sorry, was on vacation. He came back a few days later and I was on the floor shaking, like awful. I didn't eat, I didn't drink. It was awful. He was like, oh my God. He flipped out, and he's a very, very, very stoic, polished doctor. And I've never seen him do this. He went out into the nurse's station. He just lost his mind because this child is on the floor. Like, I was imprisoned, naked, had panties on, that's it, for days, on a cold floor. Yeah, it was sad. So that was my first bout of PTSD. And so, you know, they decided to also use my brain as a bit of a guinea pig with SSRIs, right? So that was awful. I basically was on speed. I was on Prozac. I didn't sleep. Like, I'd sleep like 2 hours a day, and I was like, again, I think I was like 13, 14 years old. And that continued until I was 16. It was like, no, try this. No, now you're a zombie. No, oh, now you're high on speed. Oh, try this. And it just totally messed with my chemistry. And then I really found drugs and alcohol, and I was like, oh, numb. Yay, thank you. It was amazing. I was so excited. I was just like, give me all the vodka, give me all the weed, give me all the cocaine, like numb me, please. And I went through that for quite a few years. I think I stopped doing drugs at 18, stopped smoking weed at 17, stopped doing drugs at 18, but I continued to drink very, very heavily. And I am still a drinker, but I do it for completely different reasons. And don't get me wrong, I do kind of slip back and go, whoa, what am I numbing here? Am I just having a glass of wine with dinner? Like, I have to be very conscious of that. Right. So yeah, anyways, so about 21, I got back into DRUGS, and then that's when things really started to spiral. My mom was sick with stage 4 cancer. She made it. She was like the 6% or 2% with her type of cancer. She did make it through. However, I was spiraling out of control. I went through a really bad breakup. I had moved from where I was, so on and so forth. So I just partied my ass off. Worked in a pub, which I love. I still pull shifts every once in a while at a neighborhood pub because I just love it. I just love the interaction. I love the fun, the bantering. I love to be in service of people. And so anyways, from there, I actually ended up doing some more manly type jobs. I was laboring in mills, mines, paving, that sort of thing. And this is how in tune I am. And I know most people say this, but this is super crazy. And when I tell people there's a few things and they're like, holy shit, is that even real? But when I seen my first husband, I was on a roller. I was on a tire roller, and I looked over, and this voice in my head, it was not me. The voice said to me, really? That's who you're going to marry? I am not kidding you. And I was like, I didn't know. Like, what? He's driving by. He drives by again. I'm like, same thing. Really? That's who you're going to be with? And I was like, no, like, what the fuck is going on in my head? Anyways, so it happened to be somebody that had moved from Halifax to British Columbia. And he actually was in the same circle of friends. I found that out a couple weeks later. Then he started courting me. And it was a very toxic relationship. He was, I don't know, the best word for it is gangster style. So, and of course, I thought that was wonderful at the time, considering my toxic lifestyle. So we had a ton of fun, and I fell madly in love with him. And he asked me to marry him. And so we got married, and it was pure hell. Absolutely pure hell. It was really bad. Once we got married, I actually was like, hey, I got to get him out of this scene. So we moved to a different town, and he hadn't worked the whole time that we were together. So, really didn't feel like a sense of purpose. He was constantly toxic with drugs and alcohol. I was doing really well. I was in sales. I was working for Bell Mobility. I was like top 1, 2, 3 back and forth in Canada for a couple years. I was just kicking ass. I was just slaying out of a tiny store of 10,000 people, like a city of town of 10,000 people. And I was just killing it. And he had no purpose, really no life's purpose. And I think we'll probably get a lot into that soon with this conversation, but he had no life's purpose. And so I woke up one morning and I'd had enough. I'd wake up in the morning and he'd still be up on drugs and alcohol, and I'm going to work. And one morning he like comes in the room as I'm getting up, and I just was so disgusted. I slapped him, like, get out of my face, pushed him away. I was like, I can't handle this anymore. I got ready. I jumped in my truck, pulled out of the driveway, and here we go. Pulled out of the driveway. And I was like, oh shoot, I forgot my phone. So then I went back in the house and I could hear choking downstairs. So I ran downstairs and I knew what I was going to see when I came around the corner, and he'd hung himself. And yeah, so it was awful, as you can imagine. I was trying to like push him up and hold him up, and I couldn't get anything under him, and it was awful. And so I had to run upstairs, drop him and leave him hanging, and run upstairs and grab a knife and cut him down. So I was trained in CPR because that's how I actually got all my boy jobs, is what I call them, my industrial jobs, was because I had level 3 first aid. So he was alive, thank God. And I, did some chest compressions and some CPR, and he came to. He was completely blacked out. He had no idea what happened. He didn't know what was going on. And I think that was probably the hardest part, because here I am going through massive PTSD, and he has no idea even what happened, because he was completely blacked out. He has no idea. And so I took him to the hospital. He, basically went to, sorry, I have to plug my computer in here.
Yeah, that happens.
Sorry, I thought it was plugged in.
No worries. Okay, you got it.
So I took him to the hospital. Obviously, we had to check him in to make sure that he was going to be okay. And I had contacted my, support system, some friends, some family. And it was the end of November. And I just remember, I just shook. I literally just shook nonstop. I was constantly shaking. And I remember I wanted to decorate the Christmas tree. That was like, I need the Christmas tree. So I decorated the Christmas tree because I don't know, some sort of sense of family and happy, and I don't know, that's all I wanted to do was decorate the Christmas tree. And so once I got the Christmas tree decorated, and once everything kind of settled down, I literally sat in a chair and rocked like this for 6 weeks. Like, you see this in scary movies. That's what I did. I was so fucked. Like, I was an absolute disaster. And of course, nobody thought, that I needed help. Everybody was super focused on him, but he didn't even know what he did. He got out of the hospital and continued on and went on a bender for a few days. And it was awful. It was absolutely awful. But at that point, I knew I can't do this anymore. And I knew that he was part of my path, even at that time, before I dug into being extremely spiritual and really digging into why we do the things we do. And, we show up here for a reason, and we choose this, and all of those things. That was my first light bulb to go, like, I chose this. I needed this lesson. I'm going to learn all of the lessons really, really, really fast. And when I'm done, I'm going to be so free. and I'm not out of the woods yet. And I knew that. But I knew the relationship was over, except for I couldn't leave him because I was afraid that he would hurt himself. So here I went on with this toxic relationship for years after. He eventually got clean and sober, which was absolutely amazing. Once he got clean and sober, we decided to have a baby. And because he was clean and sober for like 18 months or almost 2 years. So that was amazing. So we decided we were going to have a baby. And we'd been married for, I think, 5 years at the time. And I was pregnant, and he got into a car accident and like broke everything, like collarbones, like 6 ribs in like 4 different places. Like, he was a disaster. He got addicted to Oxycontins. So, as if anyone knows what Oxycontins, they're opiates. And so that was the end of that. And I couldn't take it anymore. And so once my son was born, he just came home on a bender one time, and that was it. I was like, I can't deal with this. He pretended to go to work far away, and he didn't. He just went on a bender and borrowed a bunch of illegal drugs and just sat in a hotel somewhere. And I found that out because people were looking for him. And so I was like, well, this home is not a safe place. So I had to pack my son up and go. Now, before I did that, he actually chased my son and I around with a knife. So it was crazy. It was an absolute crazy time. But that blocked my beginning of my trauma from when I was about 12 to 28. And I had a lot of other shit. I mean, tons of other stuff that, I kind of opened up with. I had a lot of other things go on there, but it kind of like end blocked, right? That was the beginning of like my major realization of, okay, trauma's not cool. I don't know what to do with it. Let's try and figure it out, right? And then at 28, I was like, okay, this whole, like the way I view life, the way I deal with my trauma, the way I choose everything around me has to change, and it has to change now. And so that's when I really started to dig into my spiritual journey. And my grandma, who was very spiritual, had passed just the year before. And I was like, oh my God, why didn't I pay attention more to this loving light that wanted to help me? I remember a week after I got married, she said, so how do you like being married? And I said, no, not really. She's like, well, I didn't think you would. She was the grandma that when she got divorced, she went out and bought herself a divorce ring. So when I got divorced, I did the same thing. Anyways, I met an amazing man very quickly after, and we're still together, which is amazing. I mean, but we've been through a lot. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that I was healing, and we really, really, we trusted each other. We trusted each other with our feelings, and a lot, we would come up with these like repressed memories, but we didn't know what to do with them. We didn't have the tools in the toolbox to deal with these, traumatic memories, things that we did to ourselves, things that other people did to us or for us, right? We didn't know what to do with them. So our relationship became extremely toxic, and we had a little girl. We were also super busy. I mean, and this is something that, everyone can appreciate. Like, we had, just built a house. We had a construction company. We had a nightclub. We had rentals. I had 2 small children. Like, we were like flat out all the time busy, and not spending any like really quality time. Because we just built the house. So we were constantly like finishing the basement, doing the landscaping, like, oh, let's change the colors. Anyways, it was just a gong show. And so eventually I got to a point again where I'd leveled up. I started doing, I'm not sure if you're familiar with reconnective healing.
Okay.
But so I started doing some reconnective healing, and then I became a practitioner, and I had the reconnection done in Miami, Florida, which is basically reconnecting your energetic lines with the universe. And so it was really powerful. We can talk about that, but I don't know. It's pretty sci-fi shit. So
what we're going to do is we're going to have a reconnective healing, and then we're going to come back and we're going to tell everybody how it went. So there'll be like a round 2. So
I love it. Okay.
Trailer teaser for episode 2, but continue.
Yeah, no, that's great, because then I can actually dive into what the reconnection was all about, because it will blow your mind, and most people won't even believe it, but that's okay, because it's super sci-fi. So anyways, I really started digging into things, and when I had the reconnection done, basically with any sort of really spiritual shift, things are either going to take a gradual change or they're going to change immediately. And for me, it's always immediately. And and that usually means pure chaos, right? Because your whole life gets flipped right upside down. And so, I mean, and I've had all sorts of these sort of linchpins in my life where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I have this spiritual leveling up or download, if you may. Some people think it's more of a download. But anyways, so I had the reconnection in Miami in 2015. I came home, I was like on this whole other level, like of cloud nine, and like so spiritually awoke and so grounded. And I walked into my nightclub and my business throws a letter at me, basically telling me that I have nothing to do with the business, and that, like all these terrible, horrible things, you know, saying that I was doing, that I was a drug dealer and that I was a hooker. Like none of that is even remotely true. Like even in my dark, dark days, I would never, you know, get into the sex game. That's not me. I was never there. I would never, yeah, no. Anyways, it was awful. It was horrible, horrible, horrible to be accused of those sorts of things. But what's happening was there was my business partner was dating somebody else that was trying to edge in and basically programming her and trying to steal my partnership. And I know this, and I tried to explain that to her, but she wasn't going for it. And I know this now because now my business partner actually has a restraining order against this ex. That's how crazy this human being was.
Wow.
And so I knew that, but she wouldn't believe me. And I was like, you know what? I was already, you know, constantly, you know, battling with my life partner and had all of these other things on the go. And I was like, you know what? This is a blessing. I'm like, I knew there was going to be chaos and an absolute 180 shift in my life. So just take it for what it is. So I went home for about a month and I was like, okay, that's it. I'm moving. I packed up my kids and I left. I left all my businesses. I left my van. I left my business partner. I left my rentals. I left everything. I didn't care. And once I got away from it, I was like, whew, okay, now what? And I thought, okay, well, I should probably get a job of some sort. And when I started to even think about it, I was like, oh, well, you're going to have a nervous breakdown if you don't look after yourself. So what I did is I actually applied for a bunch of credit cards and I just lived off of credit. And I got up every morning and took my kids to school, went for a run, went to the gym, came home, had a smoothie, picked my kids up, came home. It was the same routine, and I had to get into a routine so my brain could stop because it was so much stress. The power was like, it was like almost like black magic all around me. There was so much negativity, and I was like, I just don't want you people in my life. Like, I don't want to even talk to you. I don't need anything from you. Leave me alone. And so I was actually single for about 2.5 years. And I kind of bounced around. I did I got back into marketing. I went back and ran my nightclub. I was going to open a pub, etc. And it's a funny story because, again, it's kind of one of those linchpin. I moved my kids about 9 hours away from their father. And he was pissed at me, obviously. And I was going to open a pub. And because we had sold a bunch of shit and I had some cash, right? So we'd sold some houses and stuff. So I had some cash. I was like, okay, I'm going to open a pub. Both my business partners bailed on me. I invested about $9,000 just on like engineer drawing, shit like that, like, and moving, right? And uprooting my family. My kids hated me for it. I don't think they knew that's why their behavior was off, but they were not happy where they were at all. And so it was really difficult. And I had a really big pity party for about a month. I wouldn't even get out of bed. I'd get up, feed my kids a little bit, go back to bed. And I was getting to the point that I was getting suicidal. I was just like, why does this keep happening to me? And then my brain would go, no, it's for you. And you know this. And then I would have this internal conversation with myself going, you know that every day that you feel sorry for yourself, that's going to be a minimum of 3 days of still feeling like this. Mm-hmm. And then I would have this back conversation, right? This retaliation, but no, damn it. I'm a victim and I want to feel like a victim and I'm tired and I'm going to bed. I'm staying there. And so I had this internal struggle for about a month. And then I literally woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, oh, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, you have the tools in the toolbox now. Like, okay, 5, 6, 7 years ago, you didn't. You do now. Well, I guess it would almost be like 8 or 9 years prior, right? You've been through this. You already know what this is. You know how to get out of this. So just fucking do it. And then Aaron Fraser popped into my head, and I was like, oh yeah, he's doing that digital marketing thing. Because the other thing is that on my kind of good days, I would try and seek daycare or a job where I was at, because I had the money to open the pub, but what was I going to do with no partners? I'd have to work 18 hours a day as a single parent with no support system. It wasn't going to happen. So then I was in this tiny, tiny, tiny small town in the Rockies. I had no support system for my kids. And so I couldn't get a job without daycare. I couldn't do it. So even on the good days, trying to, do something to get moving, I was just roadblock. So then once Aaron popped into my head in the middle of the night, I was like, okay, he's doing stuff like from the computer and from home. So I should be able to do this. He seems to have what I want. I reached out to him. He came back to me, booked a call. I said, whatever it is, I don't care, I'm in. I'm like, if you can do it, I can do it. And that was kind of how I felt. And I also knew that it was literally an awakening. Like, if that's not an awakening, being woke up in the middle of the night, then I don't know what is. And then that's brought me to, well, how I met Bobby just a few months later.
Unreal.
Yeah, that's the story up until 2 years ago. Yeah.
I've heard drips and pieces of this, through our relationship together, and to hear it like this, I'm like astounded that you're still alive. My respect for you has gone through the roof, but this chart looks completely different now. Like, it's so crazy. Like 5, gonna go through a fight as a kid nonstop. At 27, things get quiet. You're like, no more fight anymore. It's time for you to step into your princess mode. It's reserved for you. And that's like a nice spiritual thing to think, oh, she didn't lose her childhood. She was just waiting to be an adult to act like a child.
Exactly.
But the one really powerful thing about your chart is that you're a freaking wizard. You're a dragon. Life path 8s are the ones who are magnetic for money. They're magnetic for wealth, but they can also have a very strong disassociation from the self, which pulls things like, if you're going to disassociate from yourself and it's going to be a fight, it could be like, I want to kill myself. I don't want to be here anymore. That disconnection from the self that's almost violent. And it can really and then the 3 will be like, I'm just going to pretend like everything's okay. I'm just going to grab some credit cards. All good. I'm just going to play happy housewife until I get myself back into the right order. It's nice that you exhausted this energy, because with what's happened to you, it's like, wow. And even Jessica Boate, before she put the G in there, it says 911. So when we look at a number that says literally, call me when you have an emergency, you're going to be right there on balancing on the edge of the cliff, like gust of wind keeping you up, and almost like, test me, God. And this feeling of I will swoop down and save someone. I will sacrifice myself. And this is what makes you so ferocious, is that mama bear. But to look at this under a closer magnifying glass, it's absolutely nuts. You just tore a lot out of me. And that was crazy, because I appreciate everything you've done for me. I hold you in such a high regard. And to hear this story and what's happened underneath it, you did so much work for, imagine that one person listening right now who's sitting here and they're just in tears, being like, man, I've been down that path. Even myself, I'm locked myself in my room doing drugs, working at Rogers, couldn't get anything done, leave my life. Nobody knows where I am. I'm on 4 different drugs at once, and I don't know if I'm going to make it the next day. I can hear my heartbeat kind of thing. And, all of this challenge that we've had to go through, and to see us, I would say, rise like the phoenix from the ashes here, whoa, you've gone on to do some pretty powerful things. So there's you have your own academy for entrepreneurs. You've been in leagues with us as entrepreneurs. We've been in the same league as each other as entrepreneurs. And you're a hustler. You've done so much on your plate. And even to look, because we were talking about this before we started recording, what's next and what's in the pipe and what's going down and what's going to happen next. And we're like, oh my God, I see it. And I was like, yes, when she's saying it, the vision almost pierces my imagination and says, boom, HD right in your face. And I think you have that effect on people, because as a wizard, you're going to say stuff and it's going to happen. So we have to look at, I want to show I want to show your birthday to you. And this is something that will really, I believe it's really going to help you. We look at these stages in your life. Okay, this is your chart. This is what a chart looks like. We look at these stages in your life, and this one ends, May ends, goes until 27. Then 27 to 55, you have your 21. And then 55 and onward, you hit this 9/8. Now, this 538 number that takes up the first 55 years of your life shows up exactly again in Jess. So we have a tattoo of your life's path inside of this name that says, I'm a hustler woman. I'm definitely going to win you with my charm, and let's make some dough. Let's make some money. Let's do this, and let's have a good time while we do it. This is the opus to the first half of your life. You have to really play into the pain, play into the war story, play into that really big journey that says, I'm going to fight for those who can't fight for themselves, and I'm going to make it look good. This is like the first section of your life, and I'm like, oh man, old soul, absolutely old soul. And then we look to the other side. When you turn 55, this 9 and this 8 are numbers of mastery. When I look at my definitions table, I'm looking at all the different names. There it is, right at the very top, or in this case, the very deepest end, the most potent names for global vision. Literally, your birthday is blessed with them. You weren't like some clients or some people who had to put a letter in their name. Actually, you did. But you got it already sitting in your birthday. So we're sitting here like, man, I need to get serious. I do want to step to the next level. I want to be my own visionary. I don't want to have to sit in there with the vision of others. And it's been a process because you're the sharp tool in the shed. You're the squeaky wheel. You're the one who's like always questioning stuff in the group chats, and you're like, yeah, but what about this? I need this to work for me. And I remember the frustration feeling it with you because I'm friends. I'm like, oh, she's such a boss. She's going to say what she wants to say. Like, that's just Jess. And then on the inside, I'm thinking, it's because you can't fit a dragon into a chicken coop. You're going to burn the place down. And eventually what happens? She's like, I'm going to create my own academy. I'm going to speak to my audience and do what I need to do. And this name, I believe, took you out of this vibration of, look, I got to sacrifice myself because I'm like the phoenix who's got to burn itself alive, to now let's never come back down again, and let's just breathe fire like a dragon. Let's transcend from phoenix into dragon. And this is that unstoppable force that creates like generational wealth, a shift into the planet, if you will. And you're literally naturally designed to go into that direction as you get older. You're like 20 years ahead of the game, which brings a 5 back. You're like, damn, that's what I like to hear, because we don't want to wait for things. You're not the most patient person out there. It's like, what the hell? We'll get like, I'm like, oh, you're like, oh, hurry up, I'm amped. Let's do this. And I'm like, okay, quickly, let's go. And so when I'm seeing this, it's an absolute honor and blessing. But just to go back a little bit, and just to help you, because I had no idea that there was such a disrespect to your life force as a child and as a young little sweetheart, and this little tiny, cute as a button, big eyes, just giant smile, always thinking of other people, and don't piss her off, she'll push you down. This feeling is very, very strong inside of this like adorable little feeling. Jessica, you just give all of your heart out there, and then it's like, snatch, this is easier than taking candy from me. Oh, okay, here's some more. Snatch, and you're like, oh, I just want to make this person feel, oh, snatch, and every little piece of you gets sort of taken away, and you can't help it. This is James, this is Jean, this is Dean, this is like a lot of people who have these common stuff, Charles. So there's like these names out there that say, let me just give everything good of myself to others and not give myself the self-love I need. And then on the flip side of the coin, it's like, I'm ambitious, I'm going to work hard. You can rely on my work. I've got a strong spine, but I'm softer on the emotional side. So this is what makes a mama bear. Very loving for her children, but damn right will scratch your face out if you get in the way of her children or get in the way of that, like to the point where you'll go red in the eyes, and it's just like, look, I've activated. Then we have these numbers in here with the 7s, and maybe just as a really recap, you lose your voice for a little bit. And it almost feels like I just fight myself, and I don't go out and actually speak up for others. I'm just in a constant like Tasmanian devil with myself, and I get beat up and I win and I lose at the same time, and it just wants to rip your life force apart. So it's crazy right now as I notice this. 111, like guys, like literally the angels are here being like, yo. Tell her about the angel story. Like you've been sent here with these double ones to save the freaking planet. But if you can't save yourself, it's like a really powerful firework and it just goes off and that's it and it's done. We want to make sure you're like the arc reactor. You can power the universe for like 100 years, 1,000 years. Like your effect will be felt by others. Were you to step up to the perch and say, I'm not a phoenix anymore. I'm not an eagle anymore. I'm a dragon. I soar. I live 1,000 times longer. And it's because my legacy will show. I'm getting chills figuring this stuff out. It's nuts because when we did this back in like what 2017 or something, I wasn't nearly at this place. I wasn't nearly at this place. But to look back at this again, I'm like, why didn't I check out Jess? It was just sitting there empty. And I'm like, why didn't I look at her full name? And I looked at this again. I'm like, whoa. It was like like you put the black light over the very first hint that you passed over the very first time. I'm like, dude, you're such an old soul. And you live that really challenging human experience, but you set up into your spaceship mode. So in case, and we talked about this because you're like, dude, you came up with the term spiritual road crash or spiritual car accident. You're like, I feel like you put me through a spiritual car accident. I'm like, yeah, we kind of just went light speed. Like this one is like, let me burn myself in a blaze. And this one's like, yeah, fuck that. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna stop burning myself, but I will lay the fire out everywhere else. And everything that's flammable around you, as you rise above it, lays to fire. So it's crazy to see what you've become, but it's even in more insane, unbelievable, amazing, like super potent to consider what you're about to do. Like this is like the literally, and with that, the match is struck. Like this isn't even like, this is the beginning of your Disney story. Like this is literally where you start to actually regain your power and we start to do some pretty big things. So I'd love to talk about what really inspires you. Maybe we can go in a little bit deeper to this. There's stuff that I would love to share with you. We can do this over our private time when we look at our numbers a little bit more clearly. But to look inside of what's going to happen in the next 10 years would be a very, very vital conversation for you. And seeing as you're a mega boss and you've got a global vision, would be nice to know, when do I plot these things in to at least understand there's a bit of routine. Remember the feeling of I got to get regular. I have to get with the program, and that can alleviate a lot of stress and challenge. So once I work with someone, the second round, we offer so much more insight. We look to your future. We have a much more expanded conversation, but I think you're wearing the name very well. So I don't think that we're at the place where we want to change the letter you're using, but I would consider that you may be looking at a legal name change at some point. There's something still missing. How come I got no brakes on this? How come I'm always exhausted? I'm always moving forward. I can't quite seem to stabilize that. It's because this name that shows up legally isn't as powerful as the one that shows up to your audience. So more on that later, but I really want to switch this over. This isn't a numerology session. This is an insight into a really dear friend of mine that I'm super blessed that we got a chance to connect. But we're not done yet. So what happens next? Like, do you want to? Can we look in the bag a little bit and see what's down the pipeline and what you're most excited to share with the world next?
Yeah, absolutely. So the last couple of years have been a really cool spiritual journey, even more in depth because I've had, some financial success from home, right? I haven't had to go anywhere. I've got to spend a lot of time with my family. I've got to travel a lot. The biggest thing for me in the last couple of years has been really diving into, other people's stories, right? And helping so many people, that have faced adversity. And I do show up as a boss and I'm like, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. And they're like, oh, whoa, really? Right? Like a lot like you do. And I'm like, I'm not speaking out of turn here. Like this, if you want to speed this fucking torment train up, you've got to just hit it. You've got to do it. You've got to feel, you've got to go through the motions. You have to make decisions quickly, fall fast, fail even faster, pick yourself up and keep going. If you have anxiety, that's exactly what you need to do. Whatever you're anxious about, run as fast as you can through it. And the people that, kind of take these recommendations, come back and are like, holy shit. I mean, and this is all just free networking. You know what I mean? Like I don't charge for my services, but that is something that I would like to look at doing in the future. I definitely want to get back into the reconnective healing. The reconnective healing, when I started it, was more for myself. Dr. Eric Pearl has written a book on it, and it is, what is it called? Heal yourself. I think it's heal yourself, heal others, something like that. And so I really just took on the heal yourself part. But I can facilitate. Not that you need, I mean, and he even says this when you go to his events, you don't need to be certified. It's not like Reiki. It's not coming off of you. It's this universal light and energy, and you're just working as a catalyst because you're open to it, right? It has nothing really to do with the facilitator, where a lot of like modalities, stand this way and hold this crystal, and I really try and be really respectful to the modalities, but in my opinion, the universe is a universe. They don't give a shit where you're standing or what rock you have in your hand. I mean, obviously, different objects hold different energy. I mean, that's obvious. I mean, we can read that with, science, with our 3-dimensional and 2-dimensional science. We can read that. But in reality, just get out of the way. You don't need to do this. And I think that's one of my blocks, is that I don't want to, because so many people are so, they're so really dug into why crystals heal, why, like all these modalities, they're dug into that. And so one of my blocks is that I don't want to show up and say, I'm sorry, but you're just in your own way. You don't need this shit. You have all of the power. You don't need it. And I don't, I'm not super eloquent when I say things, and I really have, you know what I mean? And so I don't want to hurt a lot of people by saying, I'm sorry, but it's bullshit. You have everything you need. You don't need to stand here on this day when the moon's doing this with this crystal. You don't need that shit. You don't need it at all. You just need to be open to be a catalyst to help others. That's it. Right. And so for me to say that, I just don't want it to sound like it's coming from ego. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I have a hard time not sounding like that. Right. Do you want to touch on that?
I do, because your birthday says, I don't give a shit. I'm sorry this is going to hurt, but you need to hear this. And like, there's like a wizard in there. And for you, you're right. You're like, you literally have the 2 top numbers of the chart, and you're sitting there like shaking your head at the common rabble, being like, you don't need all that voodoo, woohoo, yoo-hoo, doo-doo, voodoo. And then on the other side, it's like, look, I'm going to speak the truth, and I'm going to pet you while we do this, but you're going to hear the truth. And that's really what brings the respect. I think the humanity shows up when you're kind of like, hate to do this, but, and you say that sorry, but I have to be real here, and this is bullshit. And then that's like your little introduction. So I like to think I'm like, and that's just total Jess. That's literally what the name Jess says. It says, warrior, you're going to like what this looks like, but I'm going to tell you something, and this is a wizard speaking. So it's funny because I listened to some certain stuff. I think it was Deepak Chopra who had this audio about what Merlin and was talking about with young Arthur and young King Arthur, the Wizard of Merlin. And he was kind of like, nobody gets it. Everybody, like the wizard was just almost a little annoyed at humanity, because it's like, what are you guys doing? Like, you are the magnet, you are the winning lottery ticket, and your name, quite honestly, says that now. So great, you've got however many decades of programming and trauma, and it still didn't take you down. It's like, what else you got? And now I'm glad to see that it's not life-threatening. It's not like addiction-based and all of that stuff. It's like it's service to others, and it's gotten on the bigger wheel. Really brings everything into perspective. When you look at it, you're like, man, I get it. I went through that. When you see Angel in your chart, you go through some shit so that you can actually help other people when they're going through it. And you're like, I know this way. Don't worry. Just come here, give me a hug. I'm going to tell you something. It's going to slap a little bit, but you're going to like this. And it's going to help you move. And that's what you care about, is that movement. It's charming. It's very nice. And some people are not going to get it. I call that a really strong qualification process. If you're like, look, I'm just going to be real, screw you and your beliefs and all this shit. People are going to be like, oh, wow, I never. Or they're just going to be like, oh my God, you know what? She's so right. She cuts right through. This is a wonderful woman to listen to. And those are the type of people that you want. So I think you're really making a good, solid distinction with that attitude. I don't think you should change. I think that you doing that is only dimming your own light. And if you have to dim your light for others, you're in the wrong group of people. So yeah, in my personal opinion. But really, really cool. So we did a small training earlier. I really wanted to bring some of this to life. We talked about what was it? It was about mindset. We have a group of entrepreneurs, we have an online community where we help everyday people achieve extraordinary dreams or even just a tiny little basic dream. Everywhere in between, we're there to support the transition into entrepreneurism and entrepreneurship online. 2019, here we are. So when you get a chance to partner up, we have a group and we kind of do free trainings. We offer content value. We help people grow up. When you get a chance to speak with Jess, you don't turn it down. So she's like, Bob, you're going to do a training? I'm like, heck yeah, we are. And that's actually for me what was like, dude, we need to sit on an interview podcast thing. Like, we have to do this. Because after that call, it was just like, oh man, you feel it? I'm feeling it. Okay. And it's just like, we went quiet back to our living rooms. We're like, well, that was fun. And it was like a really solid experience. And and everybody in the chat was like, like fire in the house. It was, you guys are crazy. It was awesome. And a lot of people felt it. So I really wanted to at least scratch on that door again and just have a really solid, because you pulled people through a lot today. Like, you literally just threw the gauntlet, mic drop. Oh my God, I can't believe this. You opened everybody up. Now that we're all gelled and we're all like super open, we've been like beat, right? We've been tenderized. Now we want to really raise the heat and now that, because you bypassed neurological triggers, you've done a lot of this sort of reconnected healing through the way you talk. And for me, it's a very like conscious level of reverse psychology hypnotism. People were just having a conversation, no big deal. But while we're saying it, everyone's like, oh my God, me too. Oh my God, I totally connect. Oh my God, I can't believe, and they're feeling this emotional rush within themselves. It kind of pushes the crap out front. Now, while we've got like 6 planets in retrograde, all of these big challenges, people are going through some massive shifts, lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, like, oh my God, like, can we just calm the fuck down? There's a meteor showers and the cosmic this, and like, okay, just relax. It's like 4th of July in the solar system. We're pulling all of, now I learned this, and I'm like, oh man, I just need a minute, okay, I need a minute to really relax. The next thing I really want to do is to open up and see, all right, bring in the workshops, bring in the cement, bring in the foundation, bring in the mindset. What do we need to let people know where they were to be considering entrepreneurship? They're on their own journey, spiritual journey, anywhere that they need in their life. This is that next conversation that really sets the infrastructure for ways that you have to I think mindset is like everything. Like, if it's not, you're one of the 9 out of 10. And when you're aligned and you're ready to go, you are of the 10%, and be of the 10% of that. Be the 1%er that knows you have the power. So let's get into this. Let's talk a little bit about mindset. You can lead into this. I want to hear your thoughts on the topic.
Okay, for sure. So I didn't really drop into much of my entrepreneurial journey throughout my story, but yeah, I mean, since when I was 14 years old, I sold Avon. When I was 16, actually I totally forgot until last year, which is super funny. When I was 16, we had a hot dog cart. When I was 18, I had my first kind of real business. I sold teddy bears and roses in the bars of Grand Prairie, Alberta, which was a fairly booming oil and gas community. So obviously I did really well. I was super cute little 18-year-old. And so I could sell teddy bears and roses like that. I made tons of money doing it. But as everything started to unravel,
let me guess. They bought the roses for you. You take them and then you'd sell the rose again.
and they would always say that. And I would say, I would never do that.
That's so awesome.
So anyways, I did. So if anybody's listening from 2000, or no, I guess it would be 1998, and you were in any bars in Grand Prairie, Alberta, yeah, I sold your rose again and doubled down. I lied.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh my God, and I just totally aged myself. Anyway, so so from there, I mean, I had all sorts of different businesses. I had a smoothie shop. We were gangsters, so that was a business in itself, not a legal one, but we did that. We had a moving company. Like I said, I still own a nightclub. I've had that for 9 years. We have a construction company. So I have a lot of business and life experience. And so when I got into the digital space, I jumped in guns a-blazing. Like I said, I just like hammered out, like a top rank within the community in like 4.5 weeks, and then 6.5 weeks, which at that time kind of like broke crazy records, and people were like, who is this chick? And then after that, it's totally been broken since. But that's the point. That's the 4-minute mile, right? that's, you know, once it gets done once, people are like, I got this, right? So that being said, you know, I've moved into this space, and the biggest thing that I can recommend for anybody, like if my stories hit home for you, like I said, I had the tools in the toolbox for a long time, but I kept fucking flip-flopping and I was all over the place. And really it was, you know, it was my tribe. I didn't have the community to support me. I wasn't surrounded by like-minded people. You know, some people, yes, kind of would dabble, but they wouldn't actually practice, you know, what they preach. And I also find a lot of like hippy dippy, you know, yogi, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. They might talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. I find that actually more so on that side than all my redneck friends, right? Like at least my redneck friends, you know, you could, you know, they're assholes. They are who they are. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but they show up who they are. And I find that on the other side of the coin is actually a lot different. There's this, this face of, you know, this is who I am, and I'm very centered and I'm very grounded and I eat very well and I do this and I do, not necessarily like, well, nobody I hang out with, but I see it, and I've seen it a lot. And I was like, those aren't my people. Like I can, you know, curse and swear and be who I am and still be a fucking amazing human being.
Yeah.
Right. Like I want to be able to show that to people. Right. Like some of my favorite mentors in, you know, different spiritual wellness are like me, right? They curse and they swear and they, you know, listen to, you know, heavy metal, and you know what I mean? Like that, those are real human beings. They don't pretend to be this facade, right? And don't get me wrong. I mean, there's tons of people that, you know, that look really polished in the spiritual realm that are as well. But I'm going way off on a tangent again, which I typically do. But anyways, my recommendation is to find your tribe. You're not going to find it with the people that you've been hanging out with or the family that you've been brought into. If you're having troubles with that, find your tribe. And that's what happened with me. When I got into the digital space, it wasn't because, well, I needed a business, I needed an income, and I needed to do something from home. So that's, you know, what I assumed is what I needed. But once I got into the community and started networking with human beings all over the planet, right? Like Bobby and I, what have we met in person once, I think?
Yeah.
And we jam all the time, right? But there's people all over the planet that I talk to all the time that are super like-minded, very, very like-minded, have the same stories as me, has the same trials and tribulations that I can say, hey man, I'm having a bad day. Are you having a good day? You know, vice versa. Hey, you know, can you pep me up a bit? It's wild because when you find your tribe and you find your community, things click and things happen. So again, you know, like the superficial stuff, right? The metrics and the learning and, you know, how to get online was amazing. I mean, that's how I feed my family and pay my bills, right? But for me, it was all about the community, because I had people to keep me accountable for my business and keep me spiritually accountable as well. And so what happened thank God I'm not writing. But what happened was that I jumped in, I did some crazy sales, and I started networking. Once I started networking, I really realized that I really still needed to do a lot more digging into myself. And then I went on this path of self-development. And what I did is I started using the self-development as a crutch and pretending that that was work. So I actually kind of backed myself in a corner at the beginning of this year, like financially, because I wasn't doing the income producing activities. And so this is something that I definitely want to recommend to people, is that you have to have this balance of mindset. And we'll talk a little bit more about mindset, but you have to have that balance of mindset as well as income producing activities. Now, the things that Bobby and I do online don't take a ton of time. You know, we teach you how to create a social media ad or an ad campaign. And then from there, you kind of just check the metrics. You know, it can take a couple of hours a day if you're really, really into it. Sometimes you don't have to check. I mean, I haven't checked my ad in months, like it just runs. And so we teach you how to do that, how to network, how to talk to people.
I just want to quickly just put in here before you get into networking that if you don't make an ad about your post, Facebook will make posts about or ads around your posts, and people will still be drumming around Facebook by your natural newsfeed. So it's a nice opportunity to be able to learn how to use that tool that Facebook's been using your personal profile for. Try it. Talk to someone about aliens. Next thing you know, you'll see a suggestion for the Alien trilogy, a DVD set, right? So it is a real thing. Welcome to social media. The curtain's been lifted. So yes, you teach us how to do this. That's what we do.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, if you watch the news at all, or even on Netflix, there's a lot of documentaries based on how social media and the internet are using our data. Well, the thing is that yes, it's true. I mean, they can make like, I think it's like 60 data profiles on each person. Basically, they know exactly who you are, what you're going to do, and how to manipulate you with putting different things in front of you. Now, that's shitty. Like, our privacy is gone. So no matter what you think you're doing, it's completely gone. You're never, ever going to get it back. So as far as I'm concerned, from a business sense, why wouldn't I use that to my advantage?
Of course.
Okay. So basically, yeah. So when you go on and you like, and you guys, we do this like from, seniors to somebody that's, never graduated, such as myself. It's click by click. It's super simple. If you set up a Facebook profile, you're able to do this. You really are. It's very simple. Click by click. We show you how to do things for the least cost possible. We like to really just dive into, showing you how important you are and your network is, and making you really confident. And we do this like right off the bat. Most people don't do this full time. So they have, a job, and they're paying these massive amounts of taxes. Mm-hmm. And if you have a side business or a side hustle, the immediate benefit is that you get to start writing things off. Like the learning and the community and all that stuff is a bonus, but the immediate benefit by starting a side business or a side hustle, immediately you're able to write off, 25% of your utilities, 25% of your mortgage. Like, do you have any idea how much that adds up to? So you take that off your income tax balance at the end of the year, that's back in your pocket. Like, I have a student that he works quite a bit, and so he doesn't do a ton with the business. But this year, before his tax incentives, his write-offs, his income tax he was getting back, I think, was like $2,800. He got $17,300 back just for having a business. Like, yeah, for writing off things you already have, like your cell phone, your Wi-Fi, right? Like, and then we take it a step further, and we actually use lifestyle marketing. So lifestyle marketing is, I'm going to explain this in a really kind of exaggerated sense. So when you become a marketer, what you're doing is you're marketing, just like a magazine. So if the magazine is going to produce a new cover, and that is their marketing for the magazine, there's obviously ads inside the magazine, but the magazine itself, their cover that's their marketing. So what they do every month is they go out and, depending on the magazine, but they rent the supercar, they hire the model, they buy the $5,000 dress, they rent the mansion, like if it's for a luxury magazine. They do all of these things. They spend, 20, 25 grand, I don't know, something like that, with the photographer and lights and all this stuff, right? All of that becomes a write-off because it's their ad campaign. Okay. And think about any other ads that you see in a magazine or on TV or anywhere. You have to pay for the stuff to make the ad. So what we do as lifestyle marketers is we use our own lifestyle. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, social loves it. Social media loves that because it's relatable. People go, oh my goodness, look at those people camping. I wish we could be camping on a Tuesday. Like, those sorts of things. And telling a story, a lifestyle story, social sees that as entertainment. And so they love that. And they social media wants to put that out to people, not necessarily an ad for a product. That's really hard to get a lot of traction with their ads. The other thing is that when you see these ads, they're not scams, they're not BS. It takes like a very rigorous amount of trust and digging into, like, Facebook doesn't just fire up an ad for you. You can't just fire up an ad. Sometimes they'll get through, but not really. They want to come back to you. They want to check out, you know, if you have any sort of track record, like did you just fire up a page and then an ad? Because that's pretty scammy if you did. So they like to come back and do a background check on you, and it can take up to 48 hours to have an ad approved. Just kind of a little side note there. So when we're working with lifestyle marketing, so again, I'm going to just kind of give an exaggeration with myself, but we'll use camping as an example because social loves it because it's relatable. Now you see all those flashy ads with the mansions and the, you know, the supercars and that sort of thing. And you see a ton of engagement on them, and you're like, oh my God, that guy must make so much money. Well, he probably does, but that's not his converting ad. That's not the ad that converts into dollars typically, because people can't really identify with that. Now, they can identify with travel though, because they understand, the psyche understands like travel blogging. So when you show information about you traveling, no matter whether it's an exotic place or whether you're camping with your family, people can identify with that. Now, I'm not saying that you have to travel, because that's not even the case. I mean, some people have their best converting ad just walking their dog on a Wednesday, right? And people can identify with that because they're like, I just want to be able to walk my dog. I want to be a stay-at-home dog mom, right? I don't want to go to work. I just want to walk my dog and go for a hike. But whatever your niche is, again, lifestyle, what I care about is different than what you care about and what my mentor cares about. My mentor just wanted to, you know, jump on his sled in the mountains more often. That's why he started, right? I knew that I personally had to, this was my new job, like it was what I was doing. But when it comes to lifestyle marketing, you can literally take anything that you're doing, especially if it is a family trip, even if you go to the water slides. I mean, that's like $100. You can write that off. Right now, to keep CRA happy, or obviously you want to chat with your accountant with this, but you want to explain to them that you're a marketer and you're taking this footage, whether it's videos, whether it's a picture, you're taking this and using it as an ad campaign. So that's why it becomes a write-off. Now, for myself, to keep everything kind of safe and CRA happy, I'll just write off half of the experience, because obviously half of it was, you know, taking footage. The other half was, you know, hanging out with my family. So when it comes to lifestyle marketing, now you can write off the things that you already do, not just your regular write-offs, like your home expenses. It's not, you get to write off everything. Like, I don't know how many events I've been to, you know, like all of my, like education, as you're leveling up and learning, which we go to a ton of events and they're a blast. They're all over the world. You have tons of fun, you network. It's like a vacation, but you also get to learn.
That's like business specific, right?
Yeah.
What you're talking about now is this plethora of lifestyle stuff that you get a chance to be like, oh my God, I'm getting content. Even Sally, my wife, she's like, hey, let's go get some content. That's her keyword for let's go out and have fun, because she wants to go and record it and share it with the world so people can know, like, and trust you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they identify with your lifestyle. And let's take this one step further. We were talking about social media ads. Well, you can actually say, okay, if you're, let's use camping as an example. So if you're camping, what you're going to do is you're going to target, you have the option to go after people that are parents that have kids between 6 and 12 years old. Like, it actually gives you 6 and 12, 12 and 17, like with the same age kids that like RVing in British Columbia, actually right in Kelowna. Like, you can basically project your lifestyle out into the universe, and people are attracted to that, which is attraction marketing. That's where that comes from. They're attracted to it because they see themselves and they're like, oh man, I wish I could do that. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, yeah. So, and again, that's just the immediate benefit, is the write-off, right? Then you're going to learn a high in-demand skill that like 0.001% of the population knows. I think it's even less than that. Right. And it's just growing and growing and growing and growing. Right. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, digital marketing. And so then you start to learn how to actually scale and make a side income. And if you're really, really digging it, and I mean, it's up to you. I mean, everyone's results vary, but if you're really digging it and you're into it and you're all in and you really want to make this work and you want to have that time freedom and you want to have that business freedom, the freedom to create, right? Like how many of you out there have had an idea at work and it just gets shot down and you're like over and over and over again? It's soul crushing. You're like, oh my God, like having that freedom to create in itself is massive. And I mean, and that we can, use this as a segue into mindset, because when you have the freedom to create and you get to be yourself and show up as yourself, right? Whether you're a stoic, polished professional that, puts out very, very professional content, or you're like me at rock concerts putting out rock concert content, in the middle of the week, like, it doesn't matter if I have too many drinks tonight, I don't have to go to work, that sort of thing, right? It doesn't really matter, because you're able to use your lifestyle to attract the same sort of people into your life. And that does two things. You can actually help them start a business, automated, right? The automation does everything for you, and then you get compensated for it. But it brings in a new person into your tribe that I was speaking about before. Mm-hmm. Somebody that's like-minded to you, right? And so when you find those like-minded human beings, that's when the mind really starts to shift. Because I think a lot of our problems has a lot to do with lonely. I mean, we hear this all the time, like, I'm surrounded by so many people, but I've never felt lonelier, right? And that is huge. That hits me so hard. And I know a lot of people feel that way. And it's because you're not surrounding yourself with the proper mindset. And with the proper mindset and tribe, when you have the proper mindset, you attract your tribe. Like, I didn't know that all my best friends were going to be from all over the world. Like, I mean, I talk to a couple of people in Australia weekly. I talk to people in the UK. I talk to people in Ireland, like at least weekly. And I didn't know that I was going to have that level of support because I'd never done anything global before. And I know this is like I said, I'm jumping all around all over the place, but I mean, like, the benefits of what has been created for us, right? Because there was trailblazers that did not have it as easy as us. They had to learn coding. They had to, do, network marketing style businesses in order to realize that they took those risks and had to blaze that trail for us. Like, I mean, even in the last 2 years, how it evolved. I mean, like, when I first started, it was like, here's 4 videos, have a nice day. Now, I mean, like, I built my own, academy where you can go click by click, step by step, and figure out exactly how to get online. Wow. But yeah, I keep getting off a mindset.
Well, it's crazy because, like, your entry point into entrepreneurism has led you through so many cool things where now you're like, I'd like to charge for my time. I'm like, damn it, girl, you better charge for every single penny and every single minute you make your absolute fire and value. And people should be lining up ready to be like, look, I work hard for this. Can you help me become successful? Help me get online. And your coaching fee should absolutely be inspired. What you speak is value and gold. So we have to understand that. And great, we had a very interesting journey up to this point. Even my journey into entrepreneurship, 2013, it was all network marketing. It was literally downtown Vancouver. Every Tuesday or Friday night, we would go there and do in-person trainings. And now it's completely an online community. And, it's a solution to the next generation of wealth and how to create it. But look, I got my podcast. I found my numerology. I found my coaching business. I found my affiliate marketing business. I still have my direct sales business. Businesses, on wealth. And as you keep growing, you're of more value as well. Now you have your own community and your own infrastructure. Like, to think that you were just too big for someone else's vision and you had to go out and create your own. But the match that lit the fire was to think, look, I want to get into this business. I want to go online. And from there, it's evolved so much. I know you're going to be doing your own podcast soon. You got apps in the development. Like, you're creating a community, systemized process so that you can give someone just a tiny little baby steps to think, look, you're missing a lot of money on the table. And it's great because I know your platform is really focused around how to help regular income earners reclaim a lot more of their value back. And that's a shift in the mindset as well, just right there at the beginning to think, look, you don't have to, like, employees are the most heaviest taxed bracket of anyone who makes income. The world is not made for employees. You're selling your time and you have to pay half of that back, basically. It's working twice as hard, getting half as far. And that's an old paradigm to think, no, I need a side hustle. I'm going to do so. I had a lemonade stand. I figured it out long before I had to go to school. And a lot of people are like that. They're like, what can I sell? Where can I get cans? And that's where the entrepreneur mind has grown, because as a kid, you don't get a job. Your parents just like, no, screw you. And you're like, oh, I got to figure this out. Unless you had a spoon in your mouth and they're like, here's your allowance. I'm like, screw allowance. I'm going to work my kids. They got to do their laundry. They got to clean up their rooms. They got to do all of that. And maybe I might, I'm just kidding. Obviously, I'll treat them very well. But the reality is that you work for it. That's where I grew up in. My dad's like, Dad, can I have a car? Can I have this? Or can I have that? He's like, I'm wealthy. You are broke. There's a difference. I work hard. And my friends are like, oh, your parents are so rich. You live in a nice house, nice car. I'm like, I got nothing. Like, my dad's clothes are nicer than mine. And so, like, because they were clothing retailers. So they kind of went through that path. But for me, entrepreneurism, very, very strong, very early, was to think, look, you can help people. And I took that within jobs and got fired. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I found people like yourself. I'm never giving up. We're courting together for the next like decades of our life. We're the next masters. I really do believe that. And especially with Life Path 8, I remember when I first met you, and I was like, can we work again? Can we do this again together? Because like I really want to be a part of whatever you're doing. And even now to the point where, you've invited me to do trainings for your community. We build our businesses together, and like I help your entrepreneurs, you help mine. And it's just a wonderful family that we're building. So I really wanted to share this with everyone and introduce you to our group. So let's try to talk about this mindset. I know we go off on tangents. It's fine. We have to go in about 5 minutes. I've got to go. I've got to keep things moving. So I want to conclude with the biggest shift that you can help someone go through is, I guess what? It's the idea about them believing in themselves, a set of skills that they can use to take with them into their new journey, some things that are no longer going to work for them if they decide to go online. Can you speak to that transition a little bit and how mindset is supposed to help them unlock that?
Yeah, for sure. So the number one thing that people come up with is, I don't have the money, I don't have time. Bullshit, you do. You have like an extra, when you break it down, you actually have 55 hours a week of time. When you take away sleeping, working, kids, you still have like 55 hours a week. So you have time. The money, it's not even important. If you want money, it will show up. We all know this. When you're not worried about it, it will show up. The biggest thing is we have self-limiting beliefs. We also, which are the things that, that we don't want to admit, that we don't think that we're not worthy, but it's difficult. Those are things that, you really want to do some deep diving into, whether it's, doing, plant medicine, hypnotherapy, those sorts of things. When you dig into the subconscious, you want to definitely do that. You don't need to do that right away. I'm going to give you a really, really quick rundown on exactly how to quiet this inner saboteur. So say there's an ice cream store down the road, and every day you're like, okay, yeah, like when I get off work, I'm going to go home and I'm going to, the kids and I are going to go for a walk, right? And you told the kids in the morning before you drop them off at daycare or at school, we'll go get ice cream today, and I'm really excited. And then you get home and the world's beat you down, and you walk in the door and the kids are ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. And you're like, oh my God, I just want to drive. We're driving, I'm not walking. That's very simply your inner saboteur, right? Because now you're breaking a promise to yourself, you're breaking a promise to your children. And even as minute as that sounds, it really affects your psyche. So here's the deal. Now, this is an exercise. It seems super silly, but what you want to do is you want to become a witness to this inner saboteur that's like, nah, we'll do it later. We'll do it tomorrow. I don't want to do this. I can't do this. Bob's friend Sally down the road tried this, and I can't do this, and it sounds super hard, and I'm not whatever it is. That that voice, the one that sounds like that, you need to name it, right? Mine's name is Molly, okay? And so I use the ice cream example because it actually happened to me. So here's how I respond to Molly when Molly's like, you're driving, we're not walking, you're done for the day. Like, you just want to you don't want ice cream, you want wine, right? And so, right? So this is how the witness responds to my brain. Hey, Molly, I know you're trying to protect me. I know the last time we walked, you came home and you were even more exhausted. but you know what? This is a promise you made to yourself and your children. So go and do it. Okay. And when you have that conversation and then you accomplish that little minor, tiny, itty bitty goal. And like I said, so the last time, yeah, you were exhausted, but you didn't parade yourself through this journey, have this conversation with yourself, and come out on the other side victorious. And I know that sounds so silly, but if you name that inner voice, so the first thing you want to do is figure out what that inner voice says. Like, no, I just want to take my boots off and I want to just go sit in my underwear and have a beer on the deck, right? I don't want to do the things I said I was going to do. Write those things down. Right? Like, I'm not going to the gym today. I'll go on Monday. I'll start this. Write them down. Like journal it, like 10 to 50. Then when they fire you with that name, like mine is Molly, then you're going to name all those little statements, all those little phrases. Those are going to now have a name, right? That's not you. That's Molly. That's Sam, whatever you name that. So when they fire, you have that in an internal conversation with them, with Sam, with Molly, whatever you name your inner saboteur. And you say, look, and it is you, it's a part of you. So don't be like, beat it, bitch. That's not healthy. You want to honor that and say, hey, I know you're just trying to protect me because how things went last time. However, I'm going to do this because I'm committed to making a change. And I want to be very true to my words. The other recommendation is buy the book or even the audio, The 4 Agreements.
Oh, baby.
It's a 2-hour audio and it'll blow your mind. And I've listened to it so many times. And when I can never regurgitate exactly what all the 4 are, except for what I'm working on. And mine is just be true to your word, man. Be impeccable with your word. That book, you can listen to it in 2 hours, right? Instead of watching Netflix, you can just have it on your ear. Maybe you're cooking dinner, whatever. You can literally listen to it in 2 hours. You can read it in 2 hours as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
be impeccable
that's a good one, eh?
Always do your best. Never take anything personally and never make assumptions.
Exactly.
Boom.
You do those 4 things and you're set up for success, because trust me, I hear every excuse in the book when it comes to, starting in the online biz. And I get that because I made those excuses too. But the thing is, with me, I call your bullshit. A lot of other people will lead you down a path of la, 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 la. And I just say, well, no, that's complete bullshit. You either don't have the confidence or you just don't want to. It's not a priority. And so I just, go right back to them and say, let me know when it's a priority. I mean, they always come back. Right. And I tell people all the time, just don't waste my time. I'll send you an invoice. I'll send you an invoice if you do.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Wow.
This is the first of many. I'd like to consider that this is going to be a series. We've got some things to cover. We will go on for hours. We always do. But I want to thank you so much for being with us today. So what's going to happen next? I'm going to get a reconnective healing session. We're going to come back and talk about that experience. We're going to drop some more training. I'd like to really dive into a little bit more of that mindset and really what it helps and what people can use to get to the place. Who knows where we're at next time, what new cool things you've got to share with us. But this is fire. I feel like we did a lot of healing. And, I was contemplating, do we do this with a live audience? But I'm glad we didn't. Glad we set this one for you, the listener, like the actual one-on-one, instead of having to deal with everyone else's energy. This was a message designed specifically for the one listening it. And I'd like to think that you're going to help a lot of people, and I'm right there with you. So let's keep this train moving. I appreciate you so much for everything, and thank you so much for being on here. This is like one of these. I'm still in my first interviews, and I was when I had this, I'm like, I got to get my girl Jess out here. She's got to drop some value, drop some bombs. And it was like bombs over Baghdad today. This was powerful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I am super excited to get my podcast going as well. And we're going to interview you.
That's what's up.
I'm really pumped for that. And yeah, I mean, that's shifting from making sales or making money to actually serving people. Woo. And building your tribe is what's really changed everything for you and I, and being genuine, right? Being really genuine about that. So I'm super pumped. Thank you all for listening. And thank you, Bobby, for bringing me out. You can find me, Jessica G Boate, on Facebook. And yeah, hit me up anytime if you have any questions.
Cool. Thanks, Jess. All right,
You're
guys. We'll talk to you guys
welcome.
soon. It's a pleasure doing this for you guys, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.